The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. You all know that I love The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess for the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, the bloody Picross 3DS app so much. It's got the best world of any Zelda game and the best soundtrack, and the dungeons are so good, and you can run and swing your sword at the same time, and there's this weird postman guy, and Midna is in the game, and you can pick up cats and these bombastic set pieces, and you can spin in a circle for some reason, and there's this weird clown guy, and it's just the best. And one of my absolute favorite things about it is the story. Zelda games don't have basic stories, but they're also not Shakespeare or Dickens or Kafka. Ooh, I turn into a bug. Ooh, ow. Okay, ow, you're hurting me. Ow, get off. Get out, get off. Yet Twilight Princess slightly pushed what Zelda games were known for and really put an emphasis on this grand, almost cinematic feeling narrative. With a great emphasis on heroic set pieces in this world with such a unique vibe, all populated by really interesting characters, with some of them having a character arc, which was so new for Zelda, and it all works so masterfully. And it's one of the best things about the game. So what if I told you that there existed another version of that story that was even more fleshed out, more grand in scope and scale, all while not conforming to Nintendo's strict sense of gameplay over narrative? And what if I told you it was in the form of a manga? 11 manga to be exact. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess was adapted into a manga by the author Akira Himekawa, which is actually two women working together under one pseudonym. If their name sounds familiar, you may have heard of the many Zelda manga adaptations they've done before. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Link to the Past, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, The Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass, and even Four Swords, for some reason, have all been adapted into the Japanese graphic novel format over the years. And for the most part, they're alright. They're neat, story-driven, sometimes loose interpretations of your favorite games. But with one or rarely two volumes to boot, they often feel like a footnote skim-read version of the plot. Like in Majora's Mask, Link only time travels one time, which is sort of the whole point of the game and makes the narrative click and is what is so unique about the game. And Romani and Crimea aren't even in it, so what is the point? However, Akira Himekawa wanted Twilight Princess to be a bit more mature and darker than the previous adaptations, and they struggled to find a suitable magazine. Because in Japan, manga chapters are usually published weekly to different magazines, unlike monthly to big fat volumes like we get in the West. Okay, we got it? Okay, awesome. After finally settling on the Manga 1 app, they were also given a new agreement which didn't limit them to releasing the story in a 1-year time limit, which basically is a complicated way of saying that this manga is a fully fleshed out 11-volume retelling of the franchise's best story. And I am here to tell you why it is absolutely incredible and why you should read it. Spoilers though, especially if you haven't played the game. So how do you adapt a video game? An interactive, playable experience full of individual player-led adventures and labyrinth of dungeons full of puzzles and monsters with characters and story moments that are reinforced through the gameplay that could span anywhere from 30 to 100 hours? Well, you ditch all that gameplay stuff. We don't need that. Goodbye, good riddance, bye-bye. What the manga does the best is that it takes the characters from the game, even ones who had only a little bit of depth, and really fleshes them out and makes them 100 times more interesting than they ever had the right to be. Like the little ragtag team of defenders that assembles in Telma's bar. They're a neat little idea in the game, but aren't used for much more than a reason for Link to know how to get to the next dungeon. But in the manga, oh my god, they're actual characters. Like Ashe is just a chick with a weird haircut who sometimes hangs out in the snow. Weirdo. But in the manga, she's this fierce warrior who makes the Hylian soldiers look like chumps. And the reason she is interested in the Snow Peak ruins is because that is the house she grew up in. Cool. And then Russell, The game sort of hints at this father figure-like role for him, but never goes into it at all beyond, if you go to the castle, you might even see the beautiful princess, son. She's a bloody looker, mate. I'm bloody jealous. But here they really expand on the relationship, and it really feels like Russell looks out for Link while Link looks up to him. When they reunite at the tavern, you get this really beautiful moment where they hug, and it's really lovely and wholesome and sweet. Maybe the biggest character glow up of them all is Ilya, who in the game is just thrown into the fucking trash so quickly. Ugh. She is set up as your childhood best friend and potential romantic love interest. Ooh. Before being completely forgotten about, just thrown under the rug, behind the shelf, into the bin. And then in the HD version, they made it look like this. Very late in the game, you can fix her amnesia that she got from a bonk on the head at the start of the game, but then she doesn't really do anything except stand there, staring menacingly. But in the manga, they restore her memory way earlier and have her live and work at Telma's bar. She has way more of a presence in the story, gives Link a reliable friend to talk to in Castletown. They even set up this little romantic rivalry between him and Shad, and it's just nice to get into her mind and hear her thoughts from time to time. Although she does spend a lot of that time just pining after Link. And also she's really cute. Okay? One of my biggest criticisms of the game is that Zelda shows up like 3 times, and her and Link barely know each other. Yeah, they've got that spiritual, undying, reincarnated connection from the goddess, blah blah blah, but like this version of the princess doesn't know his hobbies, she doesn't know his coffee order, she doesn't know bloody anything about him. But here, Zelda is a way bigger presence and more linked to the larger narrative at hand. One of the coolest ways they do this is by giving her and Midna this linked backstory, where the two of them knew each other as kids through this magic mirror. It's this gorgeous moment of 2 kids finding a friend in one another, allowing them to escape away from the expectations and rules of their royal lives. Those same rules that come crashing down on their friendship and separating the two forever. It's a small addition to the plot that adds so much meat to the back end of the story, really making Zelda's sacrifice and their later reunion so much more impactful. Just giving characters more time and fleshing them out even a little bit more adds so much to this story and world, and that is so especially with Big D Ganondorf. Ganondorf. Another big complaint of the game is that Zan is the main villain up until the very end where BAM! It's Ganon time! And I totally get why people don't like that. He gets brought up in passing like 3 times and then just shows up at the end. Hey, it's me! This throne is comfy! I'm gonna kill you now. But in the manga here, they really make his status as the final villain work by having him just be a more consistent presence. Like Zelda, they just spend more time with him and give him more stuff to say, and they introduce this new element to the story where he is hell-bent on destroying the cycle of rebirth caused by the Three's connection to the Triforce. Which is just so cool, and it's a big plot point in the manga in general, and I made a whole video on how much I love this part of the series, and I love it's a plot point here. It's like this part was made specifically for me! In the games, they only ever gloss over the fact that the two are reborn again and again by the blessing of Hylia to combat the curse of demise. And yeah, it's sort of a noble tale of them being reborn again and again to save the world from evil, but from a certain perspective, it's hard not to see it as a cruel cycle of destruction and rebirth. One that these 3 characters are tied to again and again and again. Their lives are created only to fulfill this destiny. And the manga really explores this. Ganondorf is motivated less by the simplistic world-conquering ideals from the game, and more by the idea of finally killing the hero incarnate and destroying the chains of fate forever. And for getting revenge on Ocarina of Time Link for all the stuff. Ganondorf talks about this directly to Zelda, in this brilliant scene that is so good I wish it was in the game. A tea-time date between the two. No, for real. Zelda is Ganondorf's prisoner, and they're having this tense tea date, and he's calmly explaining his rationale. How cruel and one-sided this curse is for him, and how it would be easier if Zelda would join him. Something she rejects immediately before retaliating how Link will always defeat him. Every single time. And they do such an amazing job in this entire manga at making the most serious Zelda of the series feel even more like the noble leader of an entire kingdom. And it's just such a good scene, and I wish someone would mod it back into the base game. Please! I'm begging! So do you think after that chat they just awkwardly finished their tea, or... So did you catch the game? What game? I hate sports. Fuck you! I've gone a really long time without talking about the magic pairing that made the game so special in the first place, Midna and Link. And the best character they heighten and flesh in this manga without a doubt is Link. Because here, Link talks a lot. And it's incredible. No, for real. No, seriously. No, just believe me for 1 second! Everyone knows that Link doesn't talk. Except for all the times that he does. Come on! It's always really annoyed me when people insist that Link is a blank nothing character that we must insert ourselves onto. Like, yeah, I use the basic sympathetic abilities that came pre-installed with my birth into this world to relate to the emotions and situations that he goes through. But until Miyamoto puts a character model of me in my goofy ass haircut into the game to go trot around Hyrule with, then Link isn't nothing. He is a character. He's his own person with his own backstory. My point being, Link does work as his own character, which we've already known for for at least 12 years, 17 years, 21 years. Oh my god. One of my favorite things about Twilight Princess was that, yeah, he was silent and mute, but they spent a lot of time just subtly adding things to make him feel more like an actual person. Soft smiles and heightened emotions and sadness and screams. And they perfectly translate those small seeds into a fully fleshed out character here in the manga. Link talks, and he talks a lot, but they make it work. He is such a sweetheart older brother type when he's with the kids, but he struggles to hide this dark past where he comes from and the fears he has about that past. And they throw him on this great journey where he's suddenly thrust into being the most important person of all time, and then have him fall from grace as the lust of the Master Sword's power intoxicates his ego until he's at the lowest point he's ever been. Link's entire arc is about learning what it means to be a hero and to have courage, and the journey he goes on is such a riveting read. Because Himekawa do such a good job at making him a likable character. He's so tough and mean, of course, but they really do lean in on him being a sweet, lovable, kind softball. He's just doing his best and trying to protect the people he cares about while also learning how to step up to the mantle of destiny. And it's probably the most successful thing Himekawa did when translating this manga. Unfortunately, I think one of the things they unsuccessfully interpreted was Midna. I don't know exactly what it is about her, but for a big chunk of the series, she feels off. If you're a weeb, you'll know of the term tsundere, which is a character type where a girl will act mean and brash to secretly hide the fact she has feelings for a character. And this version of Midna seems to follow those tropes and archetypes a lot. A lot of the time, it seems they sort of misread the playful, teasing, sometimes pitiful banter from the game into just something else that doesn't quite hit the mark. But also, I don't blame them. How do you faithfully convert a character whose relationship is half dependent on play interaction? Do you know how to do it? And don't say, let me interact with the characters in the book, because then it's not a book, then it's a video game, and we've already got 3 of those! So I've spent a lot of time on the character, which by the nature of the medium is something the manga gets to spend more time with and for the most part does such an incredible job with. And even when they add a rare new character in, it's such a good inclusion and really strengthens Link's character as well as the world and story. So good job! But it's not the only thing that the manga does well. For example, the tone here is way darker than the game ever gets. It's not R-rated horror, but there is a lot more blood and graphic violence than you'd ever see in a Nintendo game. When King Bulbin attacks Ordon Village, Link's arm is cut right off, left to float in the spring next to his body. Yikes. When Ilia is kidnapped by King Bulbin and is being taken hostage around the land, she accidentally smashes a teacup and then for a brief moment, she holds one of the sharp pieces near her wrist. Kidnapped by a group of vile monsters and not knowing if anyone she knows and loves is even alive, she contemplates if forever ending the pain and suffering she's feeling is worth it. Until she spots some kitty cat. Aww. When Link and Midna go to the Twilight Realm, they expand upon the body horror transformation Zant gives the residents. In this version, if their allegiance to him wavers even slightly, their figure becomes even more twisted and deranged. When Zelda is possessed by Ganondorf, her strong will manifests into a little bit of control, and she tries to cut her own neck so that Ganon can no longer use her as a tool against Link. It's not just throwing in bits of death, or blood, or gore to be darker and edgy, but it really lets the tone sit in a spot that the game only ever shyly flirted with. And it always does the characters a great amount of justice and makes sense in those moments. And also in one panel, Ganondorf's eye looks like this. Oh, my eye, please, oh my god, oh! One thing I love too about this manga is that they're not shy to add in their own bits of lore and world building to strengthen the story. Like, ever wonder why everyone in Ordon Village has round ears yet Link has the pointy Hylian ones? Well, the game never bothers to explain that. But in Himekawa's retelling, Link comes from a town on the border that is positioned to defend Hyrule from invaders. One day, Link pulls at a forbidden sword and the entire town disappears in a flash, leaving Link as the sole survivor. It explains one little detail of the world you may have wondered about while also fleshing out Link's new backstory. Bam! It's great! And just like Link's ears, they clarify so much from the game that didn't always make a lot of sense, or I was too stupid to realize. You know these stones you howl at as a wolf? Well, the reason they make pitch sounds is because the wind goes through the hole? Did everyone know that and I'm just stupid? Or one thing that has always bothered me about the game is that they're not very clear on what turning the world into Twilight actually does. At first, it seems to make everyone scared and helpless, but then as the game goes on, it seems like people don't even care that they're trapped in the Twilight. But here, they go out of their way to explain that when you're in Twilight, you're neither dead or alive, but will wander forever in fear. I'm so happy, yay! Woo, I'm happy, I love shopping, yay! Another thing that always bothered me is the giant diamond around Hyrule Castle. Why does no one care? That is your sovereign, your leadership. They're trapped! Help them! But they're going to explain that there is a magic around the barrier so no one can see it. Yeah, look, it's not the best fix in the world, but it makes my brain happy when these little inconsistencies are addressed. So thanks, Manga. Did you know Luda, the shaman's child, is a girl? My bad, I just always assumed she was one of the boys. Structure-wise, they sometimes have to cut things down, especially the dungeons. While going room by room and trying to figure out puzzles and getting lost and going back and forth for an hour is fun for a player, it doesn't make for a riveting read. So a lot of the times, Link walks into a dungeon and bam, he's already at the boss, which is so good because he gets to skip the Lakebed Temple. I wish I got to skip the Lakebed Temple. But when they want to spend time in a temple, they do. Like when they give Shad this side plot of wanting to prove to the world so bad that the city in the sky full of weird bird people is real, and when Link takes him there, he gets to explore the place he's always been so ridiculed for believing in. And then these lizard guys show up and start demanding grog. These guys are now canonically Australian. Give me a grog. Get down here, mate. Oh, you don't use the bloody hookshot, are you? Time for a baby long neck. So overall, from the characters to the world building to the new bits of story to the small clarifications, the manga is such a wonderful adaptation and translation of the best Zelda story to ever exist. And if you like Twilight Princess, you should definitely check it out. But it's not perfect. Why are you booing me? Balanced and healthy media criticism is good! Shut up! Fuck you! Overall, if you are a fan of Twilight Princess and want to sink your wolf-shaped fangs into more of the world and its characters, then I do definitely recommend reading this. But I think it's just important to keep in mind that it is a different artist's interpretation, and sometimes they miss the mark. And in some really silly ways too. The first and most important thing being, where is the postman? Every character shows up in the manga. The kids, the weird shaman guy, Telma, the residents of the Twilight world, even fucking Agatha, the bug princess. But you couldn't find time for maybe the most memorable minor character in the whole game? He couldn't have gone, hey, and done his little run across a page of panels to deliver a letter once? Come on! No, but in all seriousness, while the general story is beat for beat the same, there are some notable omissions and really bizarre changes that just had me scratching in my head like, what were they cooking? One of the big memorable set pieces from early on is when Kakariko Village is attacked by King Bulbin and his minions. As they storm the village, time slows down as Colin realizes Beth is paralyzed in fear. Growing from the start of the game, he chooses not to run away and to do the rightful courageous thing, as Link would. He musters all the courage in the world and sacrifices himself, pushing Beth out of harm's way. Because the game spent so much time early on with the kids, especially the shy and timid Colin, you feel right there with Link when he arrives and Colin has been captured. Hung onto this flagpole is nothing more than a trophy to taunt Link with. Which then turns to this intense chase across Hyrule with horseback combat and an army of minions all ending in this intense duel on a bridge and Link's first moment of truly looking like the hero he's destined to be. It's one of the most memorable moments of the entire game, and one Akira Himekawa thought needed tampering with. Instead of Colin getting his courageous moment, the monsters sort of just barrage the kids and then Colin is thrown away. King Bulbin is more angry and rage-induced than taunting and wicked. They still have that epic fight across the lands of Hyrule, but it doesn't have the great stakes attached to it. To rub it in even more, it feels like Himekawa did realize the importance of the moment, and after the fight is over, gave Colin one moment of heroics by shoving a singular Bulbin out of Beth's way. But it's small, and more about all the kids, and robs the story of one of its most iconic moments. Just a real weird misfire. And there are a lot of weird, quirky missteps throughout the entire manga. Not everything needs to be included, and trying to do so would be more akin to ticking a checklist than faithfully adapting from one medium to another. While a lot of the changes are good, some of them make it feel like Himekawa misunderstood the importance of certain moments in the source material. Another of the game's most iconic moments is the weird, creepy cutscene about the world's origins. Its exclusion isn't detrimental to the plot, but creepy no-pupil Link and Ilia are one of the things that the game is known for. It's one of the most Twilight Princess things about Twilight Princess. Grand reveals are spoiled via early overexposure, such as Midna's human form showing up quite a bunch, even as early as the 7th fucking page! It's a minor gripe, but it really takes away from that surprise twist that is, again, so iconic. And all of the biggest fuck-ups come in the last volume, which just baffled me. For those of you who do want to read it, I recommend skipping up ahead. But to summarize for you really quickly, it's like they crashed right at the finish line. Yes, the big Lord of the Rings finale fight is incredible and a more fully realized version than what we got in the game. But one change they make is that Midna doesn't storm up to Ganon's lair with Link, which I feel sort of robs them both of their character arc of learning to fully embrace and to trust one another. And it also robs Midna of this beautiful moment where she tries to protect Zelda from Ganondorf's evil magic before he possesses her, which feels like an even weirder misstep when they set up an easy slam dunk by adding in a friendship backstory between the two. What are you doing? Then during the great fight with Ganondorf, the climactic moment of the entire story, where Link, who has grown as a hero and a character and has overcome every obstacle, in his moment to shine as the boy who has grown into the hero he was meant to be, fucking Ocarina of Time Link shows up to be like, hello, it's me, Link. I'm the cool one that everyone loves from the game they played as a child. Maybe if it was 2010 when all the fans and even the series had a hard-on for the hero of time, this might have slipped past the cheesy fan service detector. But in 2023, it feels really cheap and so undoing of Link's triumphant moment. This is meant to be this Link's grand moment, what his life and destiny culminate to. The callbacks throughout the story to Ocarina of Time were really cool, and having that Link train this one in more detail was great. But it's like your dad coming in last second to get the slam dunk when I worked my whole life to ball, Dad! I worked hard for this! And then the sins of omission just keep getting committed. When the fight is over and Ganondorf has his triumphant monologue, he just dies. One panel he is alive, the next he says, peace out. Unlike in the game where Zant, out of revenge or spite or who knows exactly what, comes back to Ganondorf just for a split second to do this funky little neck maneuver, that little neck crack that chiropractors could only dream of is, again, such an iconic part of Twilight Princess. It's not really Twilight Princess without it, or if it is, it's just a lamer version, where Zant's end is only a balloon. Lame. And then the biggest just misstep, misread, misfire of the whole story is Midna's departure. In the game, the reason this is such a heartbreaking moment is in part because of its spontaneity. There was nothing before this moment that alluded to Midna's intention to sever the only connection between the world of light and twilight. There's such a sadness in her eyes in that single floating tear as she shatters the mirror and says goodbye to her closest friend and companion. It all happens in a flash, leaving Link and the player stunned. In the manga, she goes, it would be better if there was no way to travel between worlds. What? Yes, it is time for me to leave this world. Can I come with you? No. Okay. And then she slaps Link and then she kisses him? And okay, a lot of people seem to think of Link and Midna as a romantic pairing, and like, I totally get it. I understand why people come to that conclusion, but I've just never seen it that way. It really just always felt like a platonic relationship to me. Just two people from opposite worlds working together and learning to become friends, and then at the end when she is beautiful, he is like, yo, wow, that is so cool. But here they lean into it a lot more than the game. So far so that you can hear the sounds of their sloppy tongues. Oh, yuck. Okay, stop it. Get off the room. Ah! Just after every issue that popped up in this final volume, it really blows the landing and kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. While the manga is overall very good and I do recommend it, especially to fellow upper-class Twilight Princess enthusiasts such as myself, there are a couple of general problems I think should be criticized. Anytime the manga has to recreate shots in motion or iconic bits of imagery from the game, it doesn't ever look better than the source material. A problem I have with most manga in general is action and fights just aren't as fun to read as they are to watch in motion. And when action isn't always well telegraphed, it had me flicking back and forth between pages a little confused. And effects such as the juxtaposition between the real world and the Twilight areas cannot be seen because it's all in black and white. Character designs are adapted into this new art style really well, but anytime they have to create a new character, they don't really feel synchronous with the established world. It becomes really clear who is and isn't from the game. And in the Twilight realm, for some reason, they decided to give some of the Twilight people facial hair, which just feels so wrong and so far from what they probably would have looked like. And without coming across as overly mean, I don't know if the manga is the best drawn 100% of the time. There are some great drawings for important panels, and I give them so much prop for drawing Midna's helmet 1,000 times. But from time to time, the art does leave a bit to be desired, especially in big group battles. Or when you get random errors like King Bowen having one horn when both should have been cut off. Or maybe it's a perspective error thing. And look, I'm not an artist. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. So maybe this is actually all incredible art and I don't know what I'm talking about. But with 1 year between volumes between two artists, I don't know, I think some of the art could have been a bit better. And speaking of that 1 year between volumes, one flaw that I think is a well-justified complaint is the translation. When a volume would be released in Japan, at the quickest, it would take 9 months to be fully translated into English and sent to us in the West. Now, I'm sure this yearly manga series wasn't the highest priority for Viz Media, but up to a year for the translation seems rather slow, doesn't it? And when they are finally translated, the quality isn't always the greatest. I noticed a typo or two throughout the series, and some lines are not cross-referenced with the game's translation. For example, in Japanese, the line 勇な危険に力は宿らぬ was kept the same from the game. However, in English, it was retranslated into power does not inhibit a blade without bravery, which is a correct translation, but nowhere near as grandiose and epic as the game's original. A sword wields no strength unless the hand that holds it has courage, which is one of the most memorable lines from the game. If the Japanese text could stay consistent, I don't think it's much to expect the most iconic lines from this iconic video game to be kept to match. But I guess in the 9 to 12 months it took them to translate, they couldn't look up a long play of the game or a transcript, so... But all complaints aside, is this worth a read? Well, I mean, do you like Twilight Princess? Then yes, it doubles down on the best parts about the game. It expands the characters, gives more details on the world, makes Link this actual realized character, adds new bits, and does it all in a way that feels engrossing and fun. It has a few hiccups, definitely, but if you love Zelda, and especially if you love the best Zelda game ever made, you should definitely give this a read. But what about you? Have you read the Twilight Princess manga? If so, please let me know your thoughts down below. And if you want to get these videos early and get a cool extended thoughts thing, including a more detailed discussion on the other Zelda manga, then consider signing up and becoming a member. You'd be supporting the channel and helping me buy my 100th copy of Twilight Princess, and I can give you cool stuff and, I don't know, I'll do a little dance for you if that's what you want. Is that what you want? But thank you so much for watching. Please have yourselves an amazing day and stay snug. See ya.